everyone, my name is Joe. I'm glad to share with you my experience as an immigrant, or in my case, a returnee from Hong Kong to Vancouver, back to Vancouver. I understand that there's a lot of cases like me where, during our younger years, we immigrated with our families back in the late 80s or early 90s. And after graduation from college or university, we went back to our home country or hometown at that point. And then, after a certain amount of years, because of the political situation or the future that we think for our kids, that would decide to come back to Canada. I am one of the many cases, and therefore I'd like to share with you guys some of my experience so far during my stay here for almost 3.5 years. So let's get started. So in my case, I should start saying something about my background. Back in Hong Kong, after my graduation from UBC, which is the university here in Vancouver, British Columbia, I went back to Hong Kong, and I pretty much started my career getting into the land sort of related development industry. Because my first job back there was, actually before that, I used to work for United Airlines as a telephone reservation person. But the majority of my adult working life back in Hong Kong was in the land-related development industry. I was lucky enough to be able to get into one of the biggest land developers back in Hong Kong, and where I started my career in the property management sector. And I worked there for about 3 years. And luckily, because of the scale of my organization at that time, we had like 8,000 to 10,000 employees. So we were able to have the opportunity to go to other sectors, sort of like a management trainee, if you will. So starting from property management, move to hotel management, and then to leasing, and then towards the end, sales and marketing department, which to me is one of the most exciting rotation during that time period. I did learn a lot from that aspect, and after a couple of years sticking around in that organization, I had the opportunity to work in Macau as well, because there is a joint venture organization or development where one of my older ex-colleagues from Hong Kong, invited me over there to help out, to start up a team. All in all, I think it's a great experience to build up and to accumulate. But I think since maybe 5 or 6 years ago, we started to, as a family, because I'm married with 2 kids, 2 daughters, and we had to decide whether, continue to stay in Hong Kong is an option, or do we have other options? And just similar to a lot of Canadians, like myself, in the case in Hong Kong, we could actually come back anytime you want. Also, my daughters, because we at the early age when they were born, I've already applied citizenship, Canadian citizenship and passport for them, so it's not a problem for them to come back anytime as well. It really depends on my wife's take on whether she wants to stay in Hong Kong or, uproot herself and live here in Canada. So about 6 years ago, 6 years ago, my brother was having his wedding ceremony here in Canada, Calgary to be specific, because that's where he used to live, where he still lives at this point. And he invited the whole family to go there and join his wedding ceremony. So at that point, besides visiting Calgary, I also organized a trip where we could stay in Vancouver, Calgary and Toronto, one of these three major cities, for about a week or two each, so that my wife could have a taste of what each city feels like, and if she decided to come here, to choose which city that she would like to go to. And after visiting Vancouver, she felt that this is the place where she would feel most comfortable. And so am I, because I used to live here for about 6 or 7 years, so I still have an idea of what this place is all about. It's like, right? So after that, we planned and prepared, and we did our move in 2018, where I first came back because I got a job, and they came about 6 months later than me. Actually 7 months, 7.5 months, because we wanted to wait until our daughter's school year is over before they come over. And we believe that, for the kids to come over during the summertime is probably the best time, because Vancouver, during the winter times, it doesn't snow a lot, but it rains quite a bit, and it's not going to leave a good impression for them. Should they come at that time, it'll be so boring. It's like staying indoor all the time, and they probably won't like this place as much. And I was right, because during the summer when they came, we did a lot of outdoor things, and we went to a lot of different places. We did some like mini road trips, which lasted a very good impression for them. And up to now, we believe that it's a right decision, because both daughters enjoy the school system here a lot better than in Hong Kong. And when we asked them whether they want to go back, they would say no. So yeah, I think we made the right decision. And also for my wife as well, she has started to make her own friends, has her own connections here, starting to build up her own network here, slowly but surely. And I'm working, well, in the course of 3.5 years, I've worked for more than 7 jobs. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me why. It's just the way it is here. Seems like there in every couple of months there's something's happening. So right now I'm working for a flooring company, which is very, very stable, as well as the prospect seems pretty good. Like even during the COVID period, because of the housing market it's doing quite well here in Vancouver. When a lot of people, when they think about doing renovations and other things, flooring is definitely one of the things that they would look into. And this company that I worked for is a very reputable company. It's a company that's built or started by Cantonese or Hong Kong immigrant like myself, and they are doing a very successful company here, serving the lower mainland here in Vancouver. So life is very different. I tried to get back into land development business, but didn't seem to work out too well. So I figured that's probably time for me to start thinking out of the box. And I think flooring industry is good because it's somehow related with housing, but it's not selling houses. So I'm good with that. And together with the work-life balance that I can get from this company, I'm not complaining. So a little bit about myself, and a little bit about my family as well, because of how we've come across so far. I would say our transition, it's rather good, I would say, because especially where we live, which is Richmond, where we felt very much familiar because of the Asian or the Chinese population that is here. I understand people would be saying that, or there's also people from Hong Kong that would prefer a place where you are the only minority, or you're the only Chinese with the whole community or the whole state. But that's going to be very difficult because we're not that young, right? So we have our choices, our tastes, as well as our culture. So moving here doesn't mean that I want to get rid of all my culture and try to assimilate into like a totally Canadian culture, which I don't mind, but I think as a family, we have to strike a balance. So we chose this community, or this town of Richmond, where we've got the best of Chinese cuisines outside of Hong Kong, or I would say arguably some of the cuisines are even better than Hong Kong. But if I want to go to a more white community or Canadian community, it's only less than half-hour drive, and we can go to many different places. So I'd like the flexibility that we have here. Whereas if I were to choose to stay in New York, because my wife's sister and her family stays in New York, and we also have our green card, American green card as well, that wouldn't be that much easier, because even though New York is a very diverse, multicultural place, it's very different. The vibes are very different as compared to Vancouver or the West Coast, which I came to appreciate more and more when I stay over here. So a little bit of ourselves, and hope you guys would enjoy my experience. In the following episodes, we're going to start discussing about the things that we had to go through, and some of the things which as an immigrant we might share many in common. Okay, so talk to you guys later. Bye.